Woohoo! Hello there. I think we're live. And it's a very good day because today I'll cover my absolute favorite scales. And judging from some of the comments I get, that's a popular request. And I can understand that because it's the foundation of a lot of the lead stuff I do and everyone does. So I was thinking to myself, well, if I could only use 5 scales, what would it be? And those are what I consider to be the 5 best scales. And of course, there are other ones as well, but this is really about trying to narrow it down a little bit so it doesn't feel that daunting to learn all these scales. But as usual, there are 14 minutes left, so if you're watching the replay, consider yourself lucky. You can fast forward. If not, you're going to have to listen to me warm up, because I want to be somewhat warmed up when I play these scales. So let's go. Supratic, pentatonic, and pinch harmonics. Let's do it. Linopip. Linotpip. Sorry for butchering your username, but good to have you here, man. Okay, this is too fast for a warm-up. Let's maybe slow it down a little bit. Delusion Fast. Good to see you, man. And you come to the right place. In just 10 minutes, we'll get rolling with the pentatonic and many other scales. This is a Fender ELA. This is a Fender American Deluxe Strat. Nomad Fred Hinkle from southern Indiana. Hope you're doing good, man. I hope snow is gentle on you. We still have it laying around here. I wish it were a little bit warmer, but that's the way it is. It gives you lots of practicing time, so that's a good thing. Thank you, Fred. I try to make anything I touch sound good, but it doesn't always work. Dong is asking why it has to be so hard to practice the finger to be fast. Yeah, that's because the fingers need to be completely in sync. So it's really a matter of precision, and that takes time to develop. You know, anything you want to do with precision and with speed is going to be difficult. Delusion fast. You should check out the tapping lesson we did a few days ago. We also did some interesting AI licks yesterday with tapping. Hey, we got Kadir from GMC. That's awesome, man. So this is an old timer from the GMC website. And so he's on YouTube now. So if you're on another platform, you can't see him. But hey, Kadir, what's up, my man? I mean, we've even done collabs and stuff together. So it almost feels like we've met in real life. Awesome to see you again, man. I hope your guitar journey is still going on strong. I remember you had some really good shops. So just hope you're keeping on that path. Very cool to see you here, man. You're staked with all the pedals. You definitely got it going. Yep, now I actually have two pedals in front of the amp. So I have the MXR Dynacomp, and I use the Silktone Fuzz, and then I hit the Mesa Boogie tube amp. It's a pretty cool sound. And then I have a bit of both reverb and delay in the loop. So quite some pedals this time. Sometimes I don't have any pedals. I like just plugging into the amp as well. It's a very special sound, which you somewhat ruin when you plug pedals into it. I still think it's worth it because some pedals are good and it gives you control of the tone, but you should never underestimate the tone coming from a tube amp without anything else. It's a very cool tone, but it can require a little bit of getting used to, I would say. But yeah. Okay, only 5 minutes left, and then we're gonna get rolling. Seems to be a good picking day. I haven't even barely warmed up, and I think there are some picking shops going on there. Ah, I gotta slow down. This is no warm-up. This is full-on shred. Kadir, awesome to have you here. I've missed you too, man. Good to see you again. Dimitri, what's up? Okay, so Carlo, what's up? Linot is asking, is it a must to use pedal? It's definitely not a must. It's just a tool, you know? It can be helpful, but these days you can get great high gain tones from digital processors and software and stuff like that. So, you know, anything that gets the job done. So definitely not a must. Hey Katsuni, what's up on YouTube? Okay, it's just 40 seconds left. Are you guys ready? Okay, very cool. So now we are going to kick things off. Woohoo! I love the sound effects. So let's do that. And yeah, can you imagine? It's time to get speaking about my favorite scales, and these are also what I consider to be the most important scales for you to kind of connect with, especially if you're into you know, the styles of playing that I'm into. I don't think you would be here if you hated that, so I guess hopefully I'm in the ballpark. But I've chosen 5 scales, And I'm playing them in the same tonality. And that is done purposely because hopefully it's going to allow you to hear the difference between the scales. And before we get started, you can access this on my Patreon. It's for free, but it does require you to register with an email. Okay, having said this, I'm going to get rolling. So the very first one is the pentatonic scale, and I'm sure 99% of the people watching this have already seen it. I still want to mention it because it is my absolute favorite scale among, I don't think I'm alone in thinking that. There are so many good rock licks in it. But not only that, it's also one of the best starting points because it turns out that if we only add 2 notes to the scale, we actually get my second favorite scale, which is the minor scale. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Instead, I'm going to play the A minor pentatonic scale. So when you're playing a scale for the first time, it's usually a good idea to either hear the harmony in the background, so the note A, because that's going to let you hear all the intervals the way they are supposed to be heard. Otherwise, you might be hearing a different scale without being aware of it. So hear that A note in the background. And if you don't have any means of, playing a keyboard or something, then you can just make sure you start on the A note and also end on the A note. So I'm going to do that. And then there's one more note on that string, but I ended on the A note. Okay, it sounds pretty boring, and the first thing you're going to notice is that these scale boxes on their own, they don't sound amazing. In fact, they sound super boring. So why would you want to learn them? Well, they give you the framework for all the cool stuff you're going to add on top of them. So if you know that, well, over this riff I can play the pentatonic scale, and you can over most riffs, then all you have to do is kind of put your licks that you practice separately into this box, and it's going to sound awesome, which is pretty much what I was doing when warming up. But just to give you an example, I play these notes. Now, if we don't play them up and down like that, instead just, bend a note and go down and then go up, that's going to create a variation. And there we have a lick all of a sudden. It's the same notes, but we manipulated them in a way so they started sounding musical. That is, however, the topic of another live stream, and fortunately, I usually cover licks and patterns more than I cover scales. So you will get lots of that content, and I've already given you thousands of shorts just exemplifying how you can use these scales. But this specific lesson is about the scales themselves. Okay, that was the pentatonic scale, and you got the foundation there, and hopefully you'll remember that it's super important to hear that A note as a harmony, because otherwise you're not going to learn how the scale sounds. And that's not a problem, I think, for the pentatonic scale, because most of you are used to it. But if we move on to the A minor scale, it gives us another opportunity to really check out how this works. And I said previously that if we add 2 notes, we get the A minor scale or the A Aeolian scale. It's the same scale, just 2 different names. And I stick by that fact. But you are probably thinking, hey, Chris is a bit confused here, because when I look at that scale diagram, there are not only 2 more dots, there are freaking lots of more dots. And you'd be right, there are more dots for sure, but there are only 2 more notes per octave, okay? So when we speak about a pentatonic scale, it means 5 notes. Yet you're going to see that the scale I'm presenting to you on the top of my screen now, somewhere up here, has many more than 5 notes. And that's because those 5 notes repeat every octave. And you can double check that by checking the note names. Okay, so I'm looking at A minor pentatonic, and I can see A, C, D, E, G. That's 5 notes. And then it starts again. A, C, D, E, G. Whew! And then A, and so on and so forth. It always starts again after the octave. So only 5 notes in every octave. So if we add 2 more notes, that's going to have a major impact on the total amount of dots you're seeing in the scale diagram, but it doesn't mean that we have a confusing amount of notes. It just means that we have 2 more notes in the minor scale compared to the pentatonic scale. And you can easily check that because the scale diagrams I provided to you are in the same tonality or in the same key. So if we check the first note, it's A. But if we check the second note, it's B in the minor scale, whereas in the pentatonic scale, the second note is C. So we can see we've added a note there. And if we keep on going, we're going to find that we also added the F note. But that's it. Only the B and the F notes. Yet this scale both looks and sounds pretty different. So let's try it out. A minor scale, starting on the 5th fret A string. And I also want to tell you that I'm always playing a half step down because I'm Yngwie deranged. This is my Yngwie guitar, and it has 08s and it's in E flat, just like Yngwie would do it. I don't know, it became my Yngwie guitar, so that's why. Doesn't really matter for now. You're going to be playing these scales on your own so you can hear how they sound. So from A, that's when we start again, and we keep on going. And so on and so forth. But hopefully you can already hear that it sounds kind of different from the pentatonic scale. Because the pentatonic scale, to me, doesn't sound sad. It sounds kind of uplifting, rock and roll, and a little bit colorless, to be honest with you. I think the pentatonic scale doesn't have that much color. Whereas this minor scale has lots of color. It's really colored in gray or in dark purple, something dark, which I absolutely love. You know, I really have to struggle to tell you which one of these I prefer, but I tend to use the pentatonic scale more often. But if someone just asked me about the sound of them, I would probably answer the minor scale because I think it sounds so beautifully sorrowful. I mean, just I don't know what I'm trying to do, but there's the A minor, and then I love the sound of the minor scale. Okay, so let's keep on going now. We have the A harmonic minor scale. Here you can see it. Now what the A harmonic minor scale does, it basically just moves one note from the minor scale. You heard me right. Only one note is different. Or rather, I guess you could say 2 notes, because we've removed one note and added one note. But I look at it as if we're raising one note. We're raising the 7, is what it's called, or the minor 7, and we turn it into a major 7. That's beyond the scope of this lesson, but you should be able, again, because I've chosen scale diagrams that are in A, you should be able to look at the A minor scale diagram and see that it's very close to the A harmonic minor scale diagram. And the note that is different is we have no G note. Instead, we have a G sharp. And that happens in several octaves. So again, still only 7 notes per octave, but it looks very different because those notes repeat in octaves. That's what I explained 5 minutes ago, at least. Okay, so let's try the A harmonic minor scale. Oh, that sound! Oh, you can't make me stop now. That's the A harmonic minor scale. Love it. And this scale has a lot of implications in terms of, harmony, and whenever the tonality changes from minor to harmonic minor. That's also beside the scope of this lesson. But you can definitely try these scales, the 3 scales I've shown you, over A minor. That's a simple starting rule, especially the minor pentatonic scale and the minor scale. It's going to be perfect over A minor. Harmonic minor scale can work. It depends on the context, but it never hurts to try. And a lot of times, if you're careful with that, the note I said was added, the G sharp, then you can still squeeze it in, if you don't rest on it for too long. Okay, so those are the 3 major scales I presented to you. Definitely try them in A minor, and of course, I'm just playing these scales in A now, but you can move them to any key. That's one of the things I explain in my beginner courses. So if you're looking at this from Patreon, or maybe you purchased one of my courses, then you know that you're going to be moving the root note to a target key note, and that's how you change the key. But it's again beyond the scope of this lesson. But now we're going to proceed to major tonalities. And because I don't play in major as often, I also only want to suggest 2 major scales to you. I was about to throw in some 4-note major arpeggios because I use those quite a bit, but I still felt that I wanted to keep it on topic here and just strictly show you scales. So we're now going from A minor to major. And that little change in 1 note is actually a radical change in how it sounds. So we're going to think of new shapes, or we're going to have to cover new shapes to be able to play over a major tonality. And to me, the easiest way to get into the major scale is actually to play the major pentatonic scale. And the reason being, it only has, again, 5 notes per octave, but these notes are different than from the minor pentatonic scale. Okay, so still 5 notes, but different from minor pentatonic. So minor and major pentatonic, 2 different scales. And again, if I just play it, I think it sounds a little bit boring, starting on the root note. Actually, it sounds okay because up to this point, you've been hearing minor tonalities. Now is the first time I played major, so you should have somehow, at least if you've been watching for the last 15 minutes, you should have reacted that, hey, that's a different sound, just because I went from A minor to an A major tonality. Okay, but we still have the advantages of like regular pentatonic scales, or like the minor pentatonic scale, in terms of only having 2 notes per string. This is an easier scale to play, and it's a slightly easier scale to remember. It is not necessarily an easier scale to create music with. That's a different topic, but it's somehow a little bit more beginner friendly, I would say. So if we don't play it just up and down like that, but actually try to play a lick in there, we could, maybe slide into that 6th fret. Okay, but the big thing with the major pentatonic, I think, is that just like we know a lot of bluesy licks in the minor pentatonic scale, it is easier, I think, to come up with rock licks in major pentatonic. And what that does, it gives you an entry point to the major scale, which has, again, 2 more notes added. And I personally found the major scale to be trickier to, it just sounded too happy to me. And I never, or I did eventually, but it took me years and years to make sense out of the major scale. I remember telling my teacher, I really don't like the major scale. And he would say, well, I'm sorry to tell you that the scale is not the problem. You are. And I was like, oh no, I'm a problem. It wasn't that bad though. But I think that maybe it would have helped me if someone had said, well, learn a few bluesy licks in the major pentatonic scale before you try to make music with a major scale. So that's what I'm telling you now. This is a good pathway if you're struggling with major sounds, just like I was. Okay, so for the A major scale, you're going to notice that it doesn't really start on the A note here. That's because I gave you, well, my favorite position, basically. So you shouldn't start it from G sharp. That's important here. You need to start it from A, okay? So you're hearing the right root note. So if I play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. MK3, it's not a recording. I'm just doing the lesson, and then I'll be responding to comments when we're done. So very soon. Okay. Let's do A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. Okay, those are the 7 notes. So any note that has a scale, or any scale that has 3 notes per string, is going to be good for shredding, you know. But I think that any scale that has 2 notes per string is sometimes easier for coming up with cool licks and melodies. So if we combine that, so in other words, we play licks from a major pentatonic, and then we play runs from a major scale, we're going to get this. Woo! Okay, there we have it. So I just wanted to keep the lesson short. If you've been wondering why I haven't answered any questions, it's because I felt that it would be useful to have this lesson as a compact little reference to the things you can do with these scales. So if you want these scales on a bigger screen, they're free on my Patreon. You have a link below, or it's just called My Favorite Scale. So if you go to my Patreon and use the search functionality, you can find this. And it's free, but you do need to register with an email. Okay. That was it. That was compact. Now, again, want to emphasize that the scales themselves is not going to make you sound good. The scales just provide the framework for all the cool licks. So if you're playing these scales up and down and following my advice, but still think it sounds like crap, that's what you have all the shorts for. That's what you have all the example tabs and that stuff for. That's inspiration which you can put into these scale boxes. This is important because you're going to get discouraged if you think that you're going to be able to play cool solos only by practicing these scales. That's impossible. You need inspiration through licks. Okay? Cool. So I think we're done with the lesson, and now I'm going to check some comments. I know that there are some eager comments from Instagram, probably also from YouTube and Facebook. Let's see here. Woo, cool. We got my man John Ortiz. That's awesome. Well, I'm going to start with all these Instagram comments because there were a whole bunch of them. In my opinion, the most important lesson is to learn intervals because you can follow chords easily. Yes, that could be a topic for another day to actually break down the different intervals in these scales and the different scale degrees. It makes it a bit more advanced, but it's certainly relevant because then you can say, well, the reason I prefer the minor scale is because it has a minor 6th. The pentatonic doesn't. It just has a 5th and then the minor 7. There's no minor 6 in between. So yes, I agree here, 2000. That's pretty relevant. Joe Strings, what's your live stream setup and software? So I use a version of OBS, but it's called Prism Live Studio. It's a paid software that allows me to stream to multiple platforms at the same time. And then I have a couple of microphones, both on the amp and which I'm speaking through. Here's one, you should hear that. And through my audio interface, I channel all these different microphones into that software. It's also a topic for another day, actually. Diminished scale, for sure. I felt like throwing it in here, but I don't use it often enough to really claim that it's one of my top 5s. Thank you, Pudion. Okay, What's the best genre to learn an electric guitar for beginners? So, Kenny, the best genre is the one you prefer listening to. Even if that's electronic dance music, you're still going to be better off trying to play a little bit to that than if I told you, heavy metal and you hate heavy metal. Maybe the odds for that are low because you're here now, who knows? But just so you get my point, if some random dude tells you you should practice something, that's not necessarily true. You need to listen to people who know your musical preferences. That's what matters in the end. Um, yeah. So let's see here. Gibson or Fender? I like both. This is a Fender, but I have Gibson as well. I love it. Can you make one song from metal solo? Not sure what you mean. Cool. So I'll be playing some more now. Cool, John. So you like electronic dance music and you often play it. Awesome. Yeah, I like basically anything that has a cool groove to it. And EDM can be pretty good for just to use as backing tracks. If we didn't have the copyright issue thing, I would probably do more jamming with backing tracks. But these days, you know, if I would do that, the stream would just get taken down. Okay. Let's see now. Well, I'm gonna add a little bit something here. Let's see. I'm gonna add a little widget. Q and A there. There's your little timer. I'm doing it in real time. We had a question about software. This is a thing I'm doing in the software. It's a timer, and I want to do like 6 minutes, and we'll do magic wand. We're done. And there we go. AI. What's AI? Am I AI? Phrygian mode, yeah. So the Phrygian dominant is actually a mode from the A harmonic minor scale I showed you. So if you can play the A harmonic minor, you're actually playing, let's see here what it is. You're playing the E Phrygian dominant. So that's one of the reasons why I like the harmonic minor so much, because it works really well in like E, like Phrygian. Oh no, we have spammer, shit. Yeah, that sucks. We have a spammer and I don't even know how to ban them here. I'm gonna have to go to YouTube here. Sorry for the interruption. Let me just see if I can ban them here. Come on. Oh, there it is. Non-something. Can we ban you here? No, we can't. Come on. Usually we don't have these assholes in here, but occasionally we get an asshole, so we have to deal with them. And I'm a bit slow now. Oh, there. There we go. Remove. No. Block. So there we go. Goodbye. So we're back. Now I'm gonna practice scales on my own. Let's do them in A minor. Let's do pentatonic first. That's me playing the A minor pentatonic scale, but I would like to emphasize that if you've never practiced the A minor pentatonic scale, this is not a good way to do it. And actually this brings us to another interesting topic, which is how you practice these scales. That's also beyond the scope of this lesson, but we should look at that because there are a million different ways to do that. Right now I'm just playing through them so you can hear them. Now let's do the A minor scale, which is going to allow us to do a bit trickier stuff. That's much easier to do than in the pentatonic scale. In the pentatonic scale, we would have to struggle quite a bit, you know. Ouch! Hurts me just watching that stuff. But with the A minor scale, playing fast is a little bit easier. Okay, but then we have the A harmonic minor scale. So let's see if you can hear the difference here. There we have it. Now let's do the major scales. We have first the major pentatonic, A major, and then finally we have the A major scale. Same thing here, the A major scale also has 3 note strings for most part, and that makes it easier to play it fast. Okay, so let's see here. So Himumega says, but please at least key idea on how to practice these instead. Okay, I'm going to give you a key idea here, and hopefully that will make you understand why it's not a simple question to or simple request to answer. How do you practice scales? That's a bit like, in a way, it's a bit like asking how long is a rope, you know? So here's the deal. I could give you a way to practice scales. That wouldn't be any better than if you Googled it, right? And you said, exercise for practicing scales. It would be a random way to do it out of the thousands or why not millions of different ways you can practice scales. So how should you be practicing scales? That's going to be determined by the type of music you listen to. And maybe your goal is to use these scales to play solos in a certain style. Then within that style lies the answer to the question how you should be practicing scales. So again, if I just gave you my way to do it here, that would be 1 out of a million. it maybe would work, maybe not. It's not that useful. I can still do it as an example, but that specific example is most likely going to suck for you. That's the reality of it. Oh, sorry. I don't know what that was. I think I was going to sneeze, but it didn't happen. And that also sucks. Okay, so, you could practice the pentatonic scale in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, group of 6. So you could do, let's see here. Oh, let's skip the metronome for this one. So just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was tricky. Let's do 3 instead. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So yeah, but is this gonna inspire you? Probably not. Chances are you're gonna do that for 5 minutes, like, nah, That's what most people do when given a scale. They try it out, nah. And like, tell me how to practice it. And I tell you how to practice, That's what's going to happen unless you tailor your practicing for your specific musical preferences and needs. If you do that, you're not going to feel, nah. You're going to feel, wow, this is getting me closer to my goal. And I can't help you with that unless I know what you are into. And then there are cases of people who just want to play lead without any real strong desire to listen to leads. And if you're not into that, it's going to be way too much work to really dive into what you need to dive into. So don't attempt to get very good at scales unless you have at least a couple of solos that you love listening to. It's like, wow, I'd love to be able to do this, Because if you have that, then the answer to all of those specific questions is going to lie within those solos. You get my point? Cool, Himu Mega. That's really interesting. Never heard it like this. That's good. Very good to get that feedback. And I'm not that surprised because I'm seeing this a lot. People kind of looking for a simple solution, and the only generic answer I can give you is to try to paint the whole picture. That's the only way to do it in this case. Katsunori, thank you for the feedback. How to do picking when exercising the scale. And that's also an example of that. There are a million different ways you can practice picking when playing a scale. So if I'm playing the A major scale, I could do it with hybrid legato. I'm practicing with the pick and the finger, right-hand finger. That's awesome. It's a lot of work. Should you invest that time? It depends. If you're into that kind of playing where you want that smooth stuff, then that's awesome. Maybe you're more into some technical death metal, then you would maybe practice alternate picking. Actually, did I say technical death metal? If you're into progressive, if you're into technical death metal, I'm being evil now, but yeah, like if you're into progressive stuff, then maybe you want to pick every note. So that's when you would consider maybe using strict alternate picking. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you can practice that with the metronome. You could do that. Or, if you're into the Yngwie Malmsteen style neoclassical, then maybe you would think of ways you could use like economy picking for that. Or if you're like me and you like having flexibility, then you might practice it with your left hand only. So you can add palm muting. You can wave at your mom or whatever, That's so it all depends. It's a huge topic, and all of that is cool, and all of it requires a lot of practicing time. So I cannot tell you what you're gonna do. It totally depends on what your musical preferences are. Otherwise, you will give up at an early stage. That's what we see. That's why there are so many beginners and not so many advanced players. People give up, and it's usually not because they're bad. I think there's a misconception in how you should prioritize your practicing. You should try to find the best teacher, and a good teacher is someone who listens to you and knows what your needs are. It is not someone who's sitting high up and has lots of views or whatever. That doesn't matter. It's finding the good stuff in you. And to be honest with you, you can do that. You are probably your own best teacher if you understand this stuff. So I'm going to do a shameless plug now, but that's why a lot of times in my courses, I spend a lot of time explaining this. You should go search for stuff that inspires you, and then you can apply this stuff on it. Just if you try to carbon copy everything from someone else, at best, you're going to be a clone, but most likely, you're just going to put the guitar down. You really need to always look at, what do I want to achieve with the guitar? Maybe I'm not even inspired to play music today. Well, don't play music today. Just because someone told you need to practice 5 hours per day, that's kind of useless, So, listen to your inner voice, because there's a lot of music in there. That means you had a lot of musical input, and you're also going to be able to output music, but it has to be tailored for your musical preferences. This is super important. Okay, Dan, so if you're not really a lead player, then just maybe some basic blues licks in the pentatonic scale, that's going to take you a long way. You can use that as kind of fills and stuff like that between your chords, and that's usually more than enough. Also, in terms of challenge, that stuff is hard as well, So I'm just going back, see if I missed any comments. Yeah, a lot of spam there. I can't believe YouTube doesn't catch that. Someone posts the same thing 15 times. YouTube should have an automatic rule that just stops this. I can't believe it doesn't. It's weird. Okay. So Ben is saying, should I catch a solo and find out which scale is the underlying one and then extend the solo with my ideas within the scale? That's a great way to practice it. If you have a great solo that you like and you started learning, analyzing the theory and maybe using the song for practicing that scale, that's an awesome idea. Another scenario, which I think is probably the most common one, is that people have a solo they're struggling with. They would love to learn, but it's difficult. So what you can do then is grab parts of the solo as exercises for your scales. So that way you can hone in on the tricky parts, and that's an example of a super relevant scalar exercises for you. That's going to be super tailored for you because it came from a solo that you were learning and you got stuck because it was difficult. So then be smart about that and turn that area where you got stuck into an opportunity to practice and progress. And not only are you going to get better at the scale you're practicing, but you're going to end up learning that solo because you're honing in on the difficult part. So that's an example of how you can be smart about your practicing and tailor it for your needs and not following some dude on the internet who just wanted to say something. Me. Cool, Frank. Loves my tone. So you're hearing actually the silk tone fuzz plugged into my Mesa Boogie Mark V amp. Dusty, I don't have any open spots for mentoring now. I know that Where is he? We have my man from Facebook who actually we did a lesson. I think it was last Christmas. That was a lot of fun. Uh, so yeah, John Ortiz from Facebook who commented earlier. We actually did a lesson, but it's been a while since I did that, and so mostly via courses now. But the stuff I'm speaking about now is the most fundamental. So that's what you're gonna find. All my courses are in chronological order. So if you pick a starting point that you feel matching your level, I'm going through all of that. So before we even attempt to play the fancy stuff, we're kind of hammering out the foundation for learning scales. And I was speaking exactly about this. It's all about finding a way that you can connect with these scales. Yep. Okay, gotta practice some more because practicing is fun. Bending out of tune there. Hey there, Nuke Pride, what's up? Hey there, Timothy. Yeah, it's my man Timothy Alfred. It's not Timothy from GMC, is it? By the way, how do you think of this screen layout? Should I be at the bottom here or should I be top? Is there text on your phone or something that is blocking my hands? Just interesting to know. I could move things around. I haven't really decided on how to do it. Joe and Strings is asking, hey man, what is your live stream setup and softwares and your from guitar to live settings? From guitar to live, so I'm starting with the guitar. This is like a Fender American Deluxe Strat, and it's going into a tuner, a noise suppressor, and then into a booster, the MXR Dynacomp, and then into the Silktone Fuzz like overdrive, and then it hits the Mesa Boogie Mark V on the overdrive channel. I use the Mark I mode. And then there are two pedals in the loop. So it's a Strymon Big Sky for reverb, and it's the Keeley Halo for delay. And then I catch the sound by miking up a speaker, and I use a greenback speaker. So I use two microphones. I use the SM57 and the Pinnacle Fat Top. And they go into my audio interface, which is an RME Babyface Pro. And in there also goes this, right? So you're hearing my voice, the guitar, and then all of that is being sent to the streaming software, which is Prism Live Studio, and that's where I put the scales on top and me down here, and you can hear the audio and that stuff. Oh, and I record everything through a Sony ZV-E10 mirrorless, I think it was what it's called, camera. Lots of words. These words. So many words. Thank you, Benny. You think the layout works fine on Instagram. Thanks a lot for confirming. Kurt, how long have you been playing guitar? I've been playing for pretty much 30 years. Man. It must mean I'm super old. Damn it. maybe some trickier scales here. I messed up. Trying to push speed a little bit too much now. Why didn't you use this VST, Neural, DSP, or Kemper? Any particular reason or any tone or sound quality compromise? So I have the Kemper standing right beside me. I played it for many years. It sounds great, but I don't like the feel of it. I have a suspicion maybe Neural DSP is a little bit better, but I don't care anymore. Oh, sorry. I just love analog stuff. I mean, I'm not saying digital is bad. I'm just saying it's very different and just very different to how it responds to your playing. And that's the fun part, I think. It's a bit like you've invested all these years in fine controlling something, an instrument. And then you really want it to be responsive when you touch it. So it's not only the sound. I mean, the sound of analog is awesome, and sometimes it's hard to get the same for digital, although for a lot of stuff you can get very close. But the feel is not there. But you can manipulate the feel of digital in lots of cool ways. So, I mean, if you want to tweak a lot and do that stuff, you can get amazing things. But if you're just looking for really good sounds, this is a shred for Josh, sorry. If you're just looking for really good sounds and don't bother with all the tweaking, then no, I wouldn't do the Kemper stuff. Benny, I'm happy to say something about the technique of my licks. Just shoot if you have any questions. Josh, are you happy with the shred or do you want more? Do you need more perhaps? Hey Josh, I just shredded. Josh on YouTube is like, shred, shred, shred. And I'm shredding, he's like, shred, shred. So I guess that wasn't shred. Or maybe it's just a delay. The stream's a little bit delayed, perhaps. Whoa, Kliss is cool. I like it. Acoustic King on Twitch. What's up, man? Oh, Josh is happy. That's awesome. I'm a beginner, and can you move the scale depending on the key? Yes. So, Kurt, if we take the first scale I showed you, A minor pentatonic, you can move it up like a whole step to B, and then if you move it up a half step, you get C, and all the dots follow along with. So that means A minor pentatonic looks like this, and if you move it up to B, it looks the same. So you're going to move it depending on what you want your root key to be. And you know, on the guitar, a lot of songs are in E, so you want to play on the 12th fret, that pentatonic box. But if it would be in E flat, then we would move it down a half step and play the same thing. So the point is definitely to move these scales, and that's one of the big advantages we have on the guitar compared to, say, a piano, is that learning a scale can be trickier on the guitar. But once you know the scale, transposing it is super easy. On the piano, that's very hard, you know. So it might seem sometimes like the guitar is just insanely difficult, but once you get into it, there are some very cool advantages to other instruments. Another one being, just like a chromatic run. On the guitar, we can do this. That would be next to impossible to play on the piano. It's super easy. But on the piano, you would have to super quickly play along white and black keys. And at that tempo, I honestly doubt anyone could do it. Of course, playing the C major scale on the piano super quick is easy, but yeah. Zeher is asking, I struggle with improvising at higher speeds, mostly 16th notes. What should I be practicing really, or rather, what should my approach be? Great question there, Zeher. Here's the thing. If you're struggling with improvisation at higher speeds, then I have to ask, is improvisation at slower speeds, is that okay? Because if so, you can consider yourself lucky. That on its own is very, very difficult. So for most people, I think improvising at a slow tempo is hard, and improvising at a fast tempo, it's completely out of reach. But if you are one of the few lucky who can actually improvise at a slower tempo, well then, as I said, consider you're lucky. All you have to do is keep doing that within your range, and slowly your range will grow. That's the only way. And for me, that was such an important thing. I decided to totally restructure my practicing and to always revolve around improvisation. So even if I was just practicing, I don't know, sweeping or something, I would still try to do it in an improvised way. So instead of just doing the same pattern like this, I would move things around. So and that's just being able to throw in variations on the fly is actually the starting point for improvisation. It's also a common misconception that people think that, well, improvising means you're playing something cool off the top of your head. Sure, it does, but that's when you reach the end of your journey and you're accomplished. For most people working on improvisation, it does not mean sounding good. It just means you're working with non-predefined lines, Sometimes it's not even that. It's just a matter of combining stuff you already know. That's one form of improvisation. And that's probably the most helpful answer I can give you in terms of improvising fast. Try to combine patterns, longer patterns you already know, For example, if I have this pattern, very common speed pattern. So you're playing 6 notes up, and then you start on the next string. So if I combine that with one more pattern that I master, so that's another common 6-note lick. So combining those is gonna sound fast, but since I'm just using 2 patterns, it's not that hard to improvise. So, oh, it was. Let's try one time. That was a bad example. Let's try one time. I'll take another. Instead of the pattern, the second pattern, I'll do this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that was easier. Okay, so my point here is this sounds like fast improvisation, but what you are doing is shredding and then applying a minimum amount of improvisation, just combining 2 licks. It still arguably is improvisation because you could do it slightly differently, right? It's not something you've decided exactly what to do, although the framework is pretty fixed, so to speak. So yeah, I guess that would be the cheating way of playing fast improvisation. But the real way is just to improvise, and slowly you're going to be able to do it faster and faster. That's the real way. Yes, Kenny, I think it's super common. All the things we've discussed here are pretty common for people either who are just starting their journey to learn lead guitar, or are intermediate and feel kind of stuck. Let's see what Zeher is saying. My improvs at slower speeds are bearable at most. I mostly follow the chord tones and throw in some chromatics here and there, but at higher tempo it gets really worked up. I think I should start on smaller phrases. You know what? You could definitely go to smaller phrases, but maybe the issue is that even your slower improvisations are giving you a major headache. So what if you slow those down so you were actually in control of your improvisations? And then you played below your comfort speed for a few days, and maybe all of a sudden you would be able to play above your comfort speed. I can't tell you how many times that has happened. People are constantly kind of pushing their limits, and they don't realize, hey, it's easier than you think. If you truly slow down, then you would be amazed at your fast progress. But the problem is, as guitarists, we're so laser focused towards building that technique, we kind of forget that, you know. I do it all the time, but I try to remind myself as often as possible, and as soon as I do that, then I start experiencing faster progress again. VA Johnny is saying, I struggle to get what I hear in my head out on the fretboard. Yep, that's hard. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. And to be honest with you, I think that it's more interesting to sort of hear the end product of your kind of physical limitations versus your idea. Because if you were able to immediately get the idea out, then you would have to have the best ideas in the world, and that's hard. However, if you are like most people and you have decent ideas at best, and then you're going to try to transfer that to the fretboard, you're going to meet some resistance, and that's when magic happens. Of course, you know, all that needs to be practiced before it truly sounds magic, but you shouldn't really be afraid of that, because I can never really hear what I can never really play what I hear in my head. But I find that if I just pretend that I'm happy about what comes out, and then I listen back to it, it's like, wow, that was pretty cool. I would never have come up with that unless I was actually failing a little bit as well and had to do a workaround. So it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Zeher, try it. You never know. It doesn't hurt, especially if you're stuck. Then anything that is different from what you typically do is better. That's true if you're stuck, for sure. If I learn these scales, how should I practice it? I appreciate your feeling. So, Kurt, we extensively covered this like 20 minutes ago, so you can watch a replay and get the explanation. Josh is asking, how do you properly transpose arpeggios, like moving from the key of C to the key of G? I'm struggling to make it sound correct. So if you're moving from C to G, you know, the easy way would obviously be to make a big position shift from C to G. That's okay. But it's a little hard to build consistent phrases, you know. And the same is actually true for scales, right? If you're playing in C minor and you want to go to G minor, you know, playing C minor here, and then you have to go all the way up here. You're not gonna come up with a consistent phrase or coherent phrase that sounds cool by doing it. You know, you're gonna have to find the scale of G in the position you started off at. So instead of moving all the way up here, you're gonna have to find those 5 notes of the G minor pentatonic here. So if I would do that, I'd get something like this. And the same is true for the C minor, or if you go from C major to G major, instead of using the exact same shape, I would find something that is close at hand. So I have C major, back to C. So you have to learn more than one position in a scale or in an arpeggio to do what you asked for there. Cool. So Kenny has the Enya X-Mary, so you already got it. Man, that's awesome. I'm pretty amazed at what they've been able to do for $200. And they've asked me to do some more videos, so I have some more coming up where I really show you how cool that guitar sounds just plugged into your phone without any pedals, anything, just the USB-C cable. So stay tuned. Hopefully it'll be up next week. We have to give them credit. Freaking $200 for a guitar that's playable and that sounds good. I like that. So what do you think about the X-Mary? Awesome. So you got it quickly as well. That's pretty cool. Is learning the cage system helpful? I found it very confusing. I never did that. Some people like it. For me, before I had heard of the cage system, I was already doing like octave patterns. So if I wanted to find the root note, like if I had B here, I also know the B was you know, and then I would have, that would always, those octave shapes, I would always visualize those within my scale. So that's how I kind of moved around. So I never did it the caged way. I think it's worth experimenting with, but maybe, you know, it depends on what you want to achieve, basically. Maybe it's not for you because you're not in that phase where you really benefit from that. Maybe you still need to, you know, learn new licks or whatever. Could be that as well. But I can't tell you any details on it because I never learned it myself that way. I've just, you know, trying to figure out what it's all about, you know, but it doesn't make sense for me to teach something that I don't have personal experience with. Kenny, so what was your solution? It's beautiful. Next day shipping, ordered at 3 a.m. Amazing. Thanks. I saw your video before I bought it. Wow, that's pretty awesome, man. Very cool. I have to show the guys at Enya that I actually convinced you, man. I managed to convince somebody. There we go. Okay, obviously, for full transparency, that's like a paid collab. So, but I am genuinely very impressed with that guitar, and you know, I tried the other one as well. It's pretty cool, the Enya Inspire, but I think it's costs more than twice as much, and the other one is amazing. Well, let's speak about something else. Okay. Marcelo, huge fan, love your playing. Thank you, Marcelo, on Instagram. If you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you started playing and how long did you practice every day at the start? Okay, so I got my like a classical guitar when I was 10 years old. And then I went to like lessons once per week and I was taught on the classical guitar to do things like, I'm still a little bit angry. They made me play, you know, like that classical thing with my feet. They should have checked with me first if I was even into classical music, and I wasn't. You know, I listened to rock and pop. Why couldn't they just have taught me to... Anyhow, so as you can understand, you know, I didn't really have a burning desire for those lessons. So I tried to, you know, practice my homework the day before I would have the lesson, and I would suck, basically. The thing that really changed it was, well, I think it was manifold, but just Yngwie and just discovering that there was like extreme shredding, that was pretty cool. I found that really cool. But prior to that, I also wanted to get into lead guitar after having heard Slash. So I think something happened there, probably when I was 16, 17, and then I really went all in when I was 18 or something. So that's the time frame. How old were you, and how long did you practice every day at the start? So when I got really serious, I would practice a crazy average of like 5 to 8 hours per day. But I did get an injury, so that kind of practicing can be a little bit difficult. So, you know, do care about your body, your posture, and listen to your body's signal whenever you feel pain. I didn't do that, so I had to stop playing for like 6 months, and that was a difficult time because I was so focused on becoming a, you know, a guitarist. I really didn't want to go do it any other way, or, you know, like follow some standard education. I hated that. So for me, that was super important, and not being able to play, that killed me. But it wasn't, you know, in retrospect, it wasn't for that long. It just felt like an eternity back then. So yeah, and now I'm 44. So lots of years in there. Cool, Kenny. So very happy you like the guitar. That's awesome. Danny, hey brother, thank you for your videos. Love it. Thank you, man, for being around. I have a guitar and I have no idea how to start and where to start. Any tips that you give me? Yes, I have some tips for you, and it's going to be in the same vein as when I spoke about which exercises you should use when practicing the scales that I covered in this lesson. So the first thing is, no one who doesn't know you can tell you what to practice. I cannot tell you what to practice here without knowing your musical preference. The reason being, if I just randomly choose something, you're going to be inspired at most for 1 or 2 days, and then you're going to put the guitar down. And that happens with a lot of people. So the only true answer to this question lies either within you, and that's the best place to search. I mean, you know what you like to listen to, and maybe you think, well, I love that song, but it's probably too difficult for me as a beginner. Who cares? Go for it, man. Go for it. Even if you fail, you're gonna try until you get through, because it's something that inspires you. And maybe you won't learn more than 2-3 chords out of that song until you give up. Well, you learn 2 or 3 chords. That's awesome. Now go for another song that you also like the sound of. If I knew you, what your musical preferences are, then I would maybe start suggesting stuff like, oh, you like Smoke on the Water. Well, that's a good riff to start with. Pretty extreme example, but still, you know. So that's the answer, you know. It is simply not efficient to practice what someone else tells you to do. That's what people who give up do. Practice stuff you love listening to. If you have that, then consider yourself lucky. Just go for that. Doesn't matter if it takes you 2 weeks to play, you know, those 3 notes and the bend from Yngwie Malmsteen solo, and then you're completely chanceless or completely clueless on how to do the fast up. That's okay. You still learned 3 notes and somewhat managed to do a bend. Awesome, if you're a beginner. You know, I don't like the idea of telling someone, oh, it's your first week, you can forget about this and that. No, I mean, if that's what you want to do, then do it. I'm not saying only do that. I'm saying do that at least a good portion of your practice time, because that's going to inspire you to play more. Marcelo, will do. Cool, Josh. C to C sharp, C major to C sharp major, for sure. That's a cool one. So are you saying you have an assignment in school, or? Well, let's do C. C major, or C major to C sharp major. Sounds pretty crazy, doesn't it? David is saying, hey Chris, I'm 37. I started playing at 16. And back then, you had the best advice. Awesome, man. So you've been around for that long. That's awesome. Start using your pinky. Thank you. Your advice made me able to shut. Wow. Thanks for the comment, man. It means the world. So you're still practicing and progressing, or are you an accomplished musician, gigging, or what are you doing? Let's do some more arpeggios here. Focus? Come on, focus. Should be in focus. So Yusuf, do change your guitars often. It's a bit like buying a new instrument. Just changing the instrument, changing the strings can have a huge impact. Nope. My metronome went crazy. Cool. Playing every day makes your progress skyrocket. It sure does. And the best part is when you're playing every day and you've done that, let's say for a few weeks, and then you take a break for a few days, and that's when you really can hit you like never before. And that's addictive, you know. I can imagine people who go to the gym. I don't, but if you go to the gym and you try to build muscles, whatever, you get your kick when you finally see some results. I think it's the same thing for practicing. You can really, it can become addictive just making guitar gains, basically. I agree, Kenny. Just the sound of a guitar is very special. Trying to do the Ingve thing. How do you avoid tendinitis or injury? So I'm not a physician or a doctor or anything like that, so you shouldn't be listening to me. But I can tell you how I managed to get the issues. And that was by practicing stretchy legato while almost falling asleep. I actually was so stupid, sorry to say this, I had a vision of falling asleep playing guitar and then waking up being really good. So I tried to do that. So sitting like that with the back all the way down like this. I couldn't even do that for 5 seconds now without starting to feel pain. But having the back all the way down or my neck all the way down like that, so super bad posture, and simultaneously playing really stretchy legato. So that's how I got injured, and I couldn't play for like 6 months. And I was young. I was like 18, 19 years old. So you'd think at that age you wouldn't injure yourself. Now I'm 44, so I could die just by watching myself doing that. But it was different back in the days. Yeah, don't do that. And I mean, it's simple. If you have a good posture, you do physical exercise, which you should be doing anyway, just to not feel depressed and for your body to feel good. And then when you practice, if you feel any pain, stop immediately, take a break, have good posture. If you do all that, you should be okay. Also avoid tension. You never want to practice while being super tense, especially I found in my left hand, but I guess to a certain extent it's true to the right hand as well. So if you think about those things, you should avoid injury. But if you're not exercising and you practice for 8 hours and you have bad posture, yeah, you're going to get injured eventually, for sure. You sound like a legend. Thank you, Josh. I've been playing for almost 30 years. I need to get an amp for Enya X-Mary and my future guitars. Is there a recommended amp? So Kenny, have you tried just plugging the guitar into your computer and maybe you have some speakers you can listen to? That could work. Depending on your sound interface, there might be a delay, but it's maybe you're not going to even notice it. So that's the first thing to try. But I like the X-Mary guitar just plugged into my regular amp. So you could use it as a normal guitar, and you could use it with any of the popular amps out there. So if you're looking for a practice amp, you could go for like the Boss Katana or something like that. If you're looking for a real amp, you can maybe, I think Bugera have some really cool tube amps, or like if you're into clean tones, maybe like a Fender, what's it called, Champ, or maybe like Blues Junior. It depends what you want to, the sounds you want to go for. How do you practice speed bursts? Interesting. So it has to be said, you're not going to be practicing speed bursts before you can play fast, right? Because when you're practicing speed bursts, you're simply practicing, a quick change of beat subdivision or BPM, if you want to look at it that way. You're not really practicing playing fast. You should have done that before. So you're just practicing going between two tempos that you already mastered. That's the number one thing. If you miss on that, you're not going to magically be able to play fast just because you practice speed bursts. But if you are able to play fast, then I guess you would do something like. And I failed. So Kenny, if you do have a laptop, then one of the major selling points of that instrument is that it has a built-in audio engine and it has like an audio interface. You can plug it into your computer via USB-C cable. That's very rare. I mean, it's a feature of a smart guitar, right? You should definitely try that first. And if you like it, it's going to depend a little bit on how fast your computer processing is, or how much buffer time you get between played notes and the note you hear, but also maybe the quality of your monitors. And if you find yourself needing to upgrade all of those, then for sure you could just look at buying a cheap tube amp or a practice amp like a Katana. Is pretty cool as well. So Voodoo Child, just a little bit more speed bursts. The good thing here is I also get to practice my vibrato. Pretty extreme bending, but still. So yeah, what I was doing is playing slowly and then trying to go into a beat subdivision that I knew that I mastered. And in this case, like 16th note triplet. So 1, 2, 10. I was even playing quarter notes there. So 1, da, da, da. One of the voices, yeah. So I was doing quarter notes and then I was bursting into 16th note triplets, if I'm not mistaken. Let's try one more time. Yeah. So I was doing quarter notes, and then I was doing 16th note triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's one way to do it. Okay, gonna have to end this now. It's way fun. I could keep on going forever, but I wanted to go outside a quickie before it gets dark here. So thanks a million for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope this gives you some insights into how you can go about learning scales and which scales to prioritize. I'm definitely not saying this is the right way to do it. I'm just saying this is how I would do it now, because those are my favorite kind of sounds and what I'm going for. So hopefully it's useful to you, and I want to thank you a million for being